In the fog about, for instance, the different roles, distribution of roles, who will pay how and which amount. In the fog as well, related to the transparency. What we will get in terms of transparency to have the most robust transparency in the agreement. In the fog on the loss and damages. Loss and damage. This discussion last week looked pretty well advanced, and in the options that we currently have in the text, it looks a backward step. The options are weaker, and the reference to finance is also missing. We also have, concerning the finance piece, related to the pre-2020 finance roadmap to reach 100 billions. This part is still under brackets to indicate clearly how the developed countries will reach 100 billion by 2020. You have a vague dialogue that was discussed, and it seems that the politics are shedding the clear roadmap that we are asking for. Then, about the increase and ratcheting up that we mentioned, you have in the text some hooks that we were pushing for, and it's good to recognize this piece in terms of 2019, also dialogue, which is to inform the preparation of INDCs. We would have wished the finalization of INDCs, because the question is that we shall not delay the action until 2025. And so all the opportunities that countries could get before 2020 to increase the ambition in terms of finance, but also in terms of mitigation, should be taken. And so in the current text, the calendar is more detailed, you have clear hooks, but the machinery is not yet completely robust. So this would have to be improved. So things are still, and discussions not clearly yet achieved, and so as you know, another text will be presented for tomorrow. The thing is that in the text we'll be able to respond to your questions more in details about the different pieces. We have the text here if you need some references. There is in the calendar I mentioned for the mitigation part some clarification to get about countries that actually submitted INDCs for 2025 and others that submitted INDCs for 2030. And you have some paragraphs where you don't have any clarity about the update that could happen in 2020. So these are articles 24, 25. This would need to be reinforced. Then, as I mentioned in other paragraph, you have the urgency mentioned, the urgency to act. How is it translated in 2016 and in this pre-2020 space, before the entry into force? Beyond the updates, we need countries to actually have a plan for action before 2020. When you look at the text, you have a good technical work that is structured and well organized, with the addition of the adaptation piece, work better at the technical level on adaptation. But an action agenda was designed without any criteria or accountability, so it needs to be perhaps improved. It could be improved after the COP21, so this is a maybe later piece. Then about the increase, all the pre-2020, which is more about political, what I mentioned, finance and mitigation part, there is no such clarity given yet. Then Isabelle Autissier mentioned the transparency piece. So we have in this transparency piece a vague language, which is a bit too flexible, and you have questions about roles and differentiations that are still pending in the discussion. On the finance part, as you can see in the text, there is a clear recognition of the role that developed countries could play, but it's a bit vague and lost afterwards. So relating to differentiation, it must be hard and hot talks now going on, because if you consider that 100 billion is a floor and that developed countries can have a role achieving these targets, Then you have in the text some weird references and not clear understanding who will participate in increasing the 100 billion. Who should play a role to increase this target after 2020? And this has not been very specified. The article, quite interesting, is the piece about global stock take. This is someone that we also wanted to be well structured. It is interesting because now it is in light of science plus equity. And that was important to really stress this equity part. Equity, a key piece to get everybody on board and make sure that you have this kinds of equity important piece considered. The 2023 year has been picked now in the text for this global stock take, which is pretty good. But then also you have the reference to all the issues covered. So it's a global stock take about mitigation, adaptation, and finance, and it's quite important to get this piece. And before the global stock take was supposed to inform the preparation of INDCs, it is now a bit more blurry about the climate action itself. So this is a direction to inform the work of countries on the definition and preparation of targets, but it's not completely clear about how it can inform and be linked with the INDCs. So overall, I would say that this was a brief analysis of what we get from yesterday. Things are still at stake. We wish courage to the French presidency to manage this discussion. They've been pretty proactive and well managing the kinds of balance and nuances and discussions without any process issues. So good luck to the French presidency, and we're wishing good luck to get the strongest agreement possible to make sure that tomorrow the agreement will let the door open to climate ambition, but also make sure we have all the hooks to come back to the table and make sure that countries increase their ambitions to actually really achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius and not just write it on paper. Thank you. If you have questions, I